It's the Infinite Podcast. Go tell your friends. It's the Infinite Podcast. My God, it never ends. It's the Infinite Podcast with Rob and Cork the Kid.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite Podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom. From movies, comics, TV shows, video games, we got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. Court, we're on a CW television show programming schedule right now.
I love it.
We come back from like a month off, we do like 2 or 3 episodes, and then we go back on another break. And now we're back again.
Now we're back. Hey, we're back for real this time.
We're back for the rest of the season.
Yep, full season. Zoom's here. Oh, you guys got the villain reveal? It's great. And it's Rob, by the way.
They usually do the villain reveal and then like take like 4 weeks off.
Like I told you, I am the future Flash. Can we talk about that for a second? I'm actually making an executive decision.
What?
He used grammar to dedicate himself to be the villain of the season.
Got it. Snuck it right in under us. Never saw it coming.
Yeah, some of us did.
They casted Draco Malfoy to get the scent off us. They're like, he surely must be the villain.
So, guys, this week we're actually talking about the Flash again. We're just going to do a whole Flash retrospective again. You thought you were getting it once, you're getting it twice.
Yeah. So Ezra Miller. No, I'm kidding.
Nope.
We have enough controversy to talk about this week. I mean, yeah. So we're going to talk about. I love these kind of episodes where we just kind of bounce around and we're just gonna chop it up a little bit, I guess, about a couple things that's happened over the last few weeks since we've been away. Unfortunately, starting first and foremost with the whole Jonathan Majors thing, we didn't record when this whole thing happened that he was convicted on a misdemeanor assault charge, acquitted on a first-degree assault charge, and Marvel promptly and correctly pretty much parted ways with him. But I mean, I think the most important thing is, you know, as with anything when this type of thing happens, like, I don't think necessarily the right move is to be like, well, what's going to happen with Marvel now? I mean, first and foremost, obviously this is like a fluid and serious situation unfolding around him. I know he went on Good Morning America to start his redemption tour, and
That was a choice.
I mean, honestly, a lot of the things he's done since this whole thing has happened have been choices, none of which I think have been particularly effective for him.
No. I mean, I don't even want to speculate on the incident at the school with the fight that he broke up. I don't even want to speculate on that situation. All we know are the facts, and the fact of the matter is he is out. He has been charged, and that's the fact of the matter. That's just he's
awaiting sentencing. And look, I mean, it's not one of those things where I think he's completely beyond redemption. I think he just needs to kind of look within himself and make some serious changes in his life, in his personal life, and his public life, certainly. And I mean, I think he just kind of needs to go away for a while, to be honest, and just work on himself. And who knows what the next 5, 10... I mean, he's a young guy still.
Yeah, what is he, 35?
Yeah, so... And, you know, it was a very tense situation that he was involved in. And like I said, I think he just needs to go away. I don't think he should attempt to rehabilitate his image overnight, because that's often not effective, and it comes across as very disingenuous when you attempt to do that. So I think he just needs to kind of go away for a while, and I think this is something he can change, hopefully, from, and not engage in problematic behavior anymore, you know, that gets him in these situations, and he puts himself in these situations, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's really all there is to say about it. I mean, a lot came out during that trial, a lot of private stuff about him, things he said, things he has done, and, you know, things that have happened. And he just, like I said, I think the best thing is for him to accept the sentencing, accept responsibility for his actions, go away for a while, and, you know, whatever that looks like on the other side of that is what it looks like. That's really all I have to say about it. And as far as the Marvel stuff goes, I mean, you know, this is something that we've kind of talked about, you know, dating back to when they started taking on this role of like, here's our plan for the next however many years, you know. These people are all human. All these actors that they put in these movies and TV shows are all human. Anything can happen at any given time, and I think this is all. A lot of things have happened with Marvel in the last few years that, you know, it feels, you know, it almost feels lucky that we got what we got with the Infinity Saga. Like, that whole thing felt like it went very seamlessly. You know, there were a couple actor changes, a couple swaps, but I mean, the last handful of years for them have just been stricken with a myriad of issues. Content blowout. We've had, quote unquote, the superhero fatigue has kind of set in. We've had the stuff like this happened. Unfortunately, you know, Chadwick Boseman passed away. Like, that's why I just don't think it's smart anymore. I think hopefully they're learning that, hey, you don't have to. And then, I mean, all the stuff with the Fantastic Four too. Like, you just can't bank on something being 10 years out and being successful. I would just pull the reins back a little bit and just kind of go one thing at a time or two things at a time. Like, I think the days where you can announce a project 10 years away is just done, because I just don't think people are going to care. By the time that thing rolls around, we've seen it happen. I think not just with Marvel, but just with anything. I think we both had the revelation this past week. We're like, dang, like, Aquaman was the first superhero movie that we didn't catch.
Yeah, I guess
theaters.
We can say that right now, that we both did not see that movie. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Always thought that I'd never miss one. And we were talking about it even further too. I don't think it was to you, it was to a person that I knew, but I said, I don't think I've missed seeing a superhero movie in theaters since Iron Man 2. Like, I think I've seen every single superhero movie since 2010. So for 13 years straight, I have not missed one in a movie theater. Even through the COVID days, even through me being an actual child, like, I haven't missed one. And Aquaman 2 rolls around and I just don't feel the same way that I felt before. Like, the obligations, it feels gone at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes back to what we've been saying about the past few that we've done, like when we reviewed them, and it's, you know, you kind of got to look at it now and be like, well, what makes your thing different? What makes your thing, like, what makes you want to see it? Outside of, you know, just being another cog in the superhero movie machine. Like, I think, you know, and there are still movies and TV shows that are, I think, doing that. I think that's possible. I think it's just the days of just putting out like a generic kind of thing.
Yeah, I said
people
that
just
before.
aren't going to flock to it.
I made that proclamation, however, so many weeks ago, that, you know, we were the teens/kids going to see these, like, I'm just going to go off the MCU start date, and then, like, if you want to look a little past, let's just take, you know, the Tobey Maguire, X-Men, Fantastic Four, that whole era, the end of Blade, all that era, right? And then you promptly go into the MCU. A lot of us that were loving those things were kids, and families were going to see those things. And, you know, as life goes on, people get older, people get smarter. Like, the days of you, like you said, and like we've been saying for a long time now, the days of you just being able to release something, it's over. You can't just release something and use the namesake of your brand to sell it anymore in that realm. Those days are long beyond us. And, you know, for the better, in my opinion, that's how it should be. You should have to work to get some of these things done. And I mean, you know, this is part of a bigger conversation and possibly an episode, but, you know, a lot of the things I'm looking forward to, like, have a lot of things in common. I mean, like Dune, just looking at Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2 has a phenomenal cast beyond it. And, you know, these superhero projects also have some really great casts, but what's the difference? The people working on these projects have something. I mean, the team you have for Dune, and then let's stay in the superhero realm. You look at the Batman itself. That's the one that I'm always going to use. You can look at Logan as well. Look at the teams that they're bringing in to make these movies. Like, there's a reason those movies stick around, and there's some people that couldn't tell you the plot to Thor 2. Like, there's just a reason for it. It's just, you can't just have these movies have the Marvel logo on it and be like, well, it's going to be great. That doesn't work like that anymore. That's why something like Peacemaker came out of nowhere and was just phenomenal, because it was dedication to story and to character, and how do I tell the best possible thing, and how do I visually make it look good. Like, all those things are important.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the umbrella that everything that you just said, the umbrella that all falls under, I think, is identity. I think these projects, when they come out now, need an identity. And I think the past few that we've kind of gotten hit with haven't really had an identity.
Sure.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 had an identity to it. I think
I just watched that. I just watched that 2 days ago, and watching that, I had this like epiphany that like once it gets up to that level, because there's the people that said, well, Guardians 3. I think in my mind for them, they're probably attaching Guardians 3 onto the MCU that was current at the point, and I said, it's just apples to oranges and nitpicking at that point, because to see that level and then that be surrounded by close to movies like Thor 4 and Ant-Man 3, like, these are not the same. Like, these are not the same type of project. You can tell which one's a product, and I've been saying this too. You can tell what's a product and what's, somebody's vision and art, like, come to life.
And I think, just kind of backtracking a little bit, I think Black Panther 2 had an identity.
Yep, I said that to the end. I will argue that to the end of the day, that is still one of the best Marvel movies that we've gotten.
Yeah, I think Loki's had an identity, if you want to look at, like, the TV side of things. I think, at least from what I've seen of it so far, I think Echo has a bit of an identity.
Sure. I'll give you that.
So I think that's ultimately I think the one outlier in that situation of something that I think had an identity but didn't stick was the Marvels. I think the Marvels had an identity to it.
I think the Marvels had an identity, but I think the biggest issue is, I think it's something we talked about in the review, we didn't know whose identity was it at some points. We didn't know if it was because Nia DaCosta's identity was fully realized, but you can tell, and the same thing happened in my opinion on Eternals, that you can tell that Eternals got a lot more play, and I think it's because Chloe Zhao was just off an Oscar, so you're not going to tell her you can't do some of the things, but I do think they told her some of the things you really want to do, it's not going to happen. And I think the reception to that got a bit confusing, because you know how I feel about the Eternals. I think that is still one of the best Marvel movies, and I just think people are missing the whole point.
I think some people are coming around on it, though.
I think so, too, because it's not this loud bang of a movie. It's supposed to play more like a Terrence Malick movie. Like, it's weird, too, right? Isn't it? Like, if you just forget the timeline for a second, if you, say, just flipped the releases of... let's say, if you flip the releases of Thor: Love and Thunder and the Eternals, I think both those movies benefit. Sure.
Like, I think if you release Thor: Love and Thunder around, like, the Eternals time, like, you're still in the midst of, like, that loud
Shang-Chi just came out, and Shang-Chi comes out in September? So September, November. I think people in Phase 4 are like, okay, this is not too bad.
Yeah,
the shows at that point were pretty, because Loki would have just been around that time, first season of Loki.
Yeah, so it's fun, it's loud, it's got comedy chops to it, like, it feels very, like, right for that moment.
And I think the direction of the MCU still had some validity to it as well. And then
if you release Eternals a few years after it, I think it stands out more. I mean, it stands out more in a different way. Like, it stands out in, like, say that releases around, like, Ant-Man Quantumania, and then the Eternals comes out, you're like, oh, like, wow, look at this different thing that they came out. Like, it's weird. It's weird how if you released it, if you do some shuffling of releases, like, I feel like that would dictate how people feel about things.
Sure.
So, and I think you're seeing that now with, like, the Eternals. Like, I go on Twitter sometimes and people are like, man, the Eternals actually was pretty good.
I think maybe
because I think people want that. I think people, like, realize
it's much more real. Like, even down to, like, some of the scenes where, like, it feels more real. I mean, one of the big arguments too is the location, and they were like, we're using locations on this movie. Like, we're going to go to places and film. Like, that resonates more with me. Like, that's real. Like, that feels real. Some of the conversations felt more real and something like that.
So, I mean, just hopefully moving forward that they just kind of realize that. I say that every time. Like, hopefully they just realize, like, hey, give these things identity. Like, I do think Deadpool 3 is going to have an identity. And I think that's because, like, going back to your point, I think, like, the people involved in it, like, are, like, for lack of a better word, like, they're not going to be told what to do. Like,
I agree. Yep.
Like, Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy have kind of garnered that with this particular franchise, where, like, they're kind of, like, in their own like, their own bubble, like, kind of leave them alone and let them cook. More or less.
Why should I have to listen to anybody else? We were the franchise that came over here and made $1 billion in an era where superhero movies weren't supposed to make that type of money.
R-rated too.
Exactly.
So, I think And, you know, I think we talked about it the last time we talked. Deadpool 3 is the only Marvel movie coming out next year.
Which
or
is,
this year.
I think, very strategic.
Yeah, I agree. So that's, you know, Marvel, I'm never going to be like Marvel's dead until Marvel's dead.
No.
I think they can always change and they can always adapt. And I think we're in the midst of that, hopefully. Speaking of things that are adapting, so Star Wars came out yesterday and said that The Mandalorian is getting a movie. So I don't think we knew that was going to happen.
No, we had a feeling. No, I think we did know that the rumor is that The Mandalorian season 4 was going to turn itself into a movie.
Yeah.
Now, I have my thoughts on this.
Well,
I don't want to be this person, but I feel as if this betrays everything that The Mandalorian season 1 was. Every single ideology of where the current state of Star Wars was. And you can see it. And remember, we had this conversation when season 2 came out, and it was the same conversation. It's a little remix because it was well done, but it was the same conversation we had when Spider-Man No Way Home came out. And we were like, we were Gamora in Infinity War. At what cost are you going to do this? At what cost? You're going to bring Luke Skywalker in for a huge cameo, but at what cost are you going to do this? You're going to bring Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in? At what cost are you going to do this? So I'm just a bit nervous that the entire state of Star Wars actually might have it a little worse than Marvel right now, because I was talking to, people around, everybody's watching Ahsoka at the time, and I was like, how did you feel about the finale? And everybody's like, it was all right, but I was waiting for something to happen. Why is that always the stipulation that something needs to happen for it to be a good finale or a good episode of something? And that's where we're currently living right now. And this is going to pertain to some of the things we're going to talk about later. We had some leaks from some video games. And again, I think a piece of it is the whole leak culture. The world has changed.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And I think I'm pretty much in agreement with it, because I mean, I love that point you made was so good, that this becoming a movie kind of betrays the whole premise of season 1, where it was like this thing that's so separate and different, and it's like this almost like an anthology almost of this, Star Wars old Western type of situation.
And it was where it came out too, because this comes out in 2020, correct? 2020 this comes out. It's the flagship along with WandaVision of Disney Plus, and it was this lone, like you said, this Western-esque lone gunslinger. But again, to go back to our point that we just made, it was somebody's vision that wasn't encompassing of, it still is a Star Wars thing. So, it definitely still had homage, but it played a lot more like the original trilogy out of anything that had come out of Star Wars. And also, you're just coming off the back of, Rise of Skywalker takes place halfway through the show, somewhere about there. I think the first season was like episode 4 because of the whole Force heal thing that we didn't know about until we saw that episode, and then they put it in the movie. But again, my whole point is, you just feel that magic of the Mandalorian. I feel it slipping and slipping and slipping. And it's sad. Now, do not get me wrong. I am excited for this movie. I'm going to go see this movie. These are still characters that I love.
Jon Favreau is directing it.
And that's the big thing that we got to talk about, is the fact that Jon Favreau is going to take the reins. And I think that is a decision on the part of Filoni being like, and shout out to him, because people are going to play this, Filoni might not be able to handle it. Sure, that's fine that he can't handle it. You're talking about a high budget movie in Star Wars where the last, what was the last Star Wars movie? Rise of Skywalker? So the last thing you did is the whatever, fan received and acclaimed, whatever the opposite of that is, that's where Rise of Skywalker sits. So obviously if Filoni's like, all right, it's still going to be my story and I'm still going to develop these characters, but why would I not get the guy that let off one of the biggest movie franchise of all time? Like, that makes all the sense in the world to get something that's already directed things before, major productions. Like, Filoni's never done a major film production before. Why don't I produce it and me and Favreau directs it? That's a genius move. And I mean,
at the end of the day, like, I feel like there's this weird, kind of disassociation with Jon Favreau. Check his resume, folks.
Exactly.
I mean, the guy has done some directed some really, really great stuff. I mean, Iron Man obviously is a given. Elf, he directed. Chef, if you've never seen the movie Chef, it's really, really, really good. I quite like the Jungle Book remake that he did.
It's not bad. It's not, and again, that's nostalgia baited, and I don't think it's his fault. Like, it's not.
I think it was a neat kind of take on that story. So I mean, the guy can direct. So I told you when this came out, I was like, I kind of wish Bryce Dallas Howard had done it.
Yeah, and I keep hearing that argument online a lot, that people are like, you had Bryce Dallas Howard ready to go.
Who's done,
season 1 and 2, possibly 2 of the best episodes of The Mandalorian.
And she did the Book of Boba Fett episode. That was
The Mandalorian.
the Mandalorian episode of Book of Boba Fett. I think the recency bias against is the fact that she directed that Jack Black Lizzo episode of The Mandalorian season 3, which I was like,
I don't think it's all her fault.
No, I don't think so either.
So at all.
Because I mean, a lot of The Mandalorian season 3 kind of again leaned into the greater universe, as opposed to like the season 1 stuff. And I think, I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. It was, I do think it was interesting that I guess they're titling it The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Interesting title. I hope they just switch it to
The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian. Yeah, that's fine. You just title it the character and that's it.
And then this would, so I'm guessing the plan is still to do the big thing?
The team up?
Yeah.
So be it.
They're going to do the big thing later on with Thrawn, I guess?
Yes.
This is the way. I guess we could just polish off the Marvel stuff now.
Sure, let's do it.
So Steven Yeun, I know both of us were quite excited that he was going to be Sentry in the Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
and
especially after seeing Beef, which he just won an Emmy for, and we're going to talk about the Emmys as well. I was ready. I was like full out prepared for him to play Sentry. I was looking forward to his take. I was looking through some of the Sentry comics. I was just scrolling through them a little bit. I was like, like I said, after I saw Beef, I was like, he's got it. Like, he's got the thing. And yeah, he left due to scheduling conflicts. So we're gonna see why and what project it could have been.
Yeah. It's interesting because this feels like one of the first times that this has happened.
Yeah, and
to Marvel.
I was just thinking about that too, because what I feel happened is I think some of these actors were doing the vice versa of what he just did.
Yeah.
And we're just like, I'm moving anything I can to make sure I'm in this movie. I obviously this is just me talking, but I'm just going to use Paul Rudd as an example. Paul Rudd was in his 40s. It's not like he was a younger man when he took on being Ant-Man. So imagine Paul Rudd had a rom-com or something and he had Ant-Man. I'm picking Ant-Man because at this point in my career, it's 2013, when he got cast, like, I have now this franchise that I'm getting inserted to as one of the main characters with sequel potential. Like, it's like the sports thing where you're just like, these guys are like, oh, we got to win the championship. I need to get paid. Like, I need to get this contract. I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting because it's, like you said, it's one of the first... I mean, he has said since that he, unfortunately had to drop out over scheduling conflicts. He also said that he still wants to very much be part of the MCU. He said he has some ideas that he wants to keep close to the chest. So that's interesting. So I do think he's going to be ending up in a thing. This whole thing with him was so weird to begin with because... it was like rumored, and then Robert Kirkman, who obviously works very closely with him because of Invincible, basically was like, oh yeah, he's in it because he did a suit testing, suit fitting. So like, it's pretty far along in the process to be doing all that, and then he dropped out. But I think he's gonna obviously end up in something. I also think maybe something that maybe go into it. Maybe there were not long-term plans for Sentry.
And unfortunate, I think, because
I think he maybe wants something a little more long-term and permanent, which makes me think he's eyeing something potentially in that Fantastic Four X-Men sphere
I think
of longevity.
I think he's playing his cards right too, and what that allows him to right now is play his cards right. Obviously at this point in his career, he's come off 2 award circuits of for Minari and for Beef. Like, now he's legitimate, and he always was in my opinion, but he's now on a grander scale, turning himself into like a pretty formidable actor, like somebody that's like a household. He's not like, the best way I can say, he's not just Glenn from The Walking Dead anymore. Like he's got he's got these acting chops, and like he's somebody that's like a name to look at. Like Steve, it's to the point where like with the Thunderbolts, but like you see Steven Yeun is cast, you're like, ooh, like now I want to see that thing. So I'm excited for him. I think his career has been, over the last 4 years, has just been like an ignition point. Obviously you add Invincible into that, like he's somebody I just want to see in things like all the time. I just want to see him act. So hopefully he gets the right role, and hopefully the landscape of the MCU looks a little bit different and he has something stable, and maybe he might be one of those cornerstones of the MCU. Who knows? Yeah.
I mean, I think that's certainly what could be, especially in the light of everything that happened with Jonathan Majors. And I feel like this almost feels like Marvel could possibly be looking at this whole Kang the Conqueror thing and being like, maybe we just get this over with as fast as we can.
Let's get us to, because again, the big thing is
like maybe we even downgrade the character a bit and not make him the big Thanos villain. Maybe we just kind of,
he's a bridge.
Maybe we just shove him into like the next Avengers movie.
Well, and that's what I thought. You know, this is years and years of hindsight before, but that's what I always thought they were going to do with Kang. I just thought Kang was going to be an Avengers villain. Like I'm talking in the Infinity Saga days.
Maybe we just Ultron him.
Yeah, and it's fine. And again, you know what that solves your problem of? Now you're gonna get you get the Avengers back. Like that again. Yeah. That's in my opinion, for the MCU. There's two priorities. Get some, number one, like I said, or three. Get some main characters. We need some main characters. Like there needs to be POV characters for people to resonate with. Two, we need that quality back. And I'm not talking about like one project looks incredible and then the next project looks like Ant-Man 3 or Thor 4. Like it needs to be and I'm not talking just visual quality across the whole board. Like we need quality back. And, three is, do the cinema. I still am going to argue that, like, do the movie making. That's what people are into now. Like, Saltburn was one of the biggest movies that was recorded on Letterboxd, and like that's not some massive budget superhero movie. Mm-hmm. That's just a really interestingly weird movie that Emerald Fennell did. But yeah, it's a very interesting point. Sorry that he couldn't play Sentry. Obviously, they're gonna get a replacement. Who do you want to see replace him? Is the real question.
I don't know. It's been so far off my radar that I haven't even really been thinking about it. I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, Skarsgård, Big Brother Skarsgård is probably the. Also, Gosling might be an interesting choice.
Oh man,
because you gotta play that like disheveled, but I also gotta believe you as some like that's why I was so excited for Steven Yeun, because even Burning, he played like this almost like. This like conniving, obviously that doesn't play a Sentry, but I think it's more of a range question or range answer for Steven Yeun is like he can do a lot of stuff. So like I just want to, I think Skarsgård would get that immediately. Like he's just a solid insert. I think Ryan Gosling also gets that.
Yeah. What about Ryan Hurst?
Hurst was solid. Hurst is not a bad option. That's not a bad. You know who also can play it, but I know that these studios are probably moving mountains to try to get him in something. It's our boy from Reacher. Is probably
Alan Ritchson.
Alan Ritchson is probably like I just know these studios are like, we need to get Alan Ritchson in a role soon. Like it's probably like a race to try to get him cast in something.
Yeah, his star is rapidly ascending.
It's like the last like couple months. It's like the Alan Ritchson show. It's cool.
Yeah, I like the idea of Ryan Hurst. I'd like to see Anthony Starr take a crack at it.
I don't think he'd do it because I think Anthony Starr is not going to play anything. I
don't think he's.
I'm of the belief Anthony Starr is never going to do anything besides play Homelander. I'm fully committed to that idea.
You know what though? Good for him.
Yeah, no, it's like he's one of the. I will stand on this mountain that he is one of the greatest TV characters. Like he's probably going to go down as one of the greatest portrayals of a television character ever. Like it's like he is so synonymous with the. It's like Jeremy Strong as Kendall Roy, or like it's like he's Homelander. Like that's just the best way to say it.
Yeah. I don't know. Interesting. So let's talk about the Emmys and the Golden Globes. Let's do the award stuff.
This
Award
is
stuff
bag.
is fun.
This is my bag.
We'll do the Emmys first because it's TV. So obviously, Succession was a monster winner. The Bear, obviously, a big time winner. The Last of Us won a lot of the technical stuff, which I think we both expected it to.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised. And you're in a landscape of shows that we're diving into a lot of realism outside of like what Stranger Things, but that's last year. Like you're in a realm where like just in say the shows you just did, Succession, Bear, like these aren't, you know, shows that have to deal in like the supernatural or anything like that. Like these are very grounded shows, but you know, on an acting front, and again, this is another mountain I'm going to stand on. I do think that The Bear is like solidifying itself as like one of those shows that's like it's gonna be on, like, I can see that show running for like another 2 seasons, 3 seasons max, but it's gonna be one of those definers. Like, it's so rare. Like, when people look at shows, like, and they look at the Emmys, they're like, oh, there's so much stuff to watch. When you talk about the decade definers, like, you can only pull a couple shows. Like, Succession now is going to be there for the late 2010s, the early 2020s. Like, obviously, I'm talking about The Wire, The Sopranos. Like, when it's all said and done with The Bear, like, I think The Bear for the 2020s is going to be, like, one of the single most definers of that era of television. Yeah. And that's saying something because we're living in the streaming era, too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the other thing is, you know, the streaming thing. But, yeah, I mean, overall, I think it pretty much went the way. Yeah,
there's a couple surprise, like the weird surprises I can think of is like Nicholas Patel not winning for the Succession score, which is an absolute robbery. But you know,
a robbery, he says.
It's a robbery, man.
Wow, threw that word around.
But you know, it's just so great seeing, you know, Jeremy Allen White have this type of career at this point. Like, and he probably wasn't joking. As soon as that first season of The Bear dropped, he said, like, I had so many scripts at my feet, and then, you know, more power to you. Ayo Adebiri, like, she's also absolutely incredible. She's going to be in Captain America 4, I believe. Like, you know, I just love that. And, you know, I forget what his last name is, but that plays Richie in The Bear. But, like, now he's probably going to play the thing. Like, opportunity comes once, you know, what you put in the work, and, you know, that's a tough show to have. I always find it funny that shows like that and Barry are in the comedy section when they're just absolutely depressing at points. And but it's just so well made. I like listening to the director and their cinematographer talk. They have some interviews that I really enjoy. Same thing with Succession. But you know, yeah, we're in a really good era of television. This is elevated storytelling, and I'm glad we're here because, you know, who said it? It was I think Stallone said it. He was just like, you know, if you asked me to make a TV show in the 90s, I would have laughed in your face, but I'm going out of my way to get a TV show now because that's how I'm going to keep myself alive at this point. So that's how I'm going to keep my career going.
And then, you know, The Last of Us unsurprisingly sweeping the guest casting awards with Nick Offerman and Storm Reed, which...
Has there been a heel turn for The Last of Us that you felt?
Yeah.
I felt a major heel turn, and there's another thing that I want to talk about heel turns when we talk about the Golden Globes, but there's been a surprising turn on The Last of Us, which is very...
I do think part of it, not to get political, but part of it does have to do with Neil Druckmann's kind of stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
I'm going to give you that. I'm going to go even further for that. I'm going to give you also the subject matter of the show too.
Yes.
I can give you.
Yeah.
And also, this is what I think the biggest issue is. When you're the most popular of something, people will somehow tend not to like you when they're the most popular of a thing.
And I mean, it also has the stigma attached to it of the thing by which it's adapted from.
Sure.
I don't think a lot of people in that sphere really make a distinction. If anything, it's a worse distinction between adapting a comic book movie or adapting a comic book and adapting a video game. If anything, I think people feel adapting a video game is even sillier than adapting a comic book. So, yeah, I mean, but this is something, and I also think it has to do, the show suffering from this also has to do with the fact that people are a bit critical of the fact that on the video game side of it, Naughty Dog has done nothing over the last 20 years other than release Last of Us and Last of Us remasters. So I think people some people are suffering from Last of Us fatigue.
Sure.
So I think that's definitely part of it.
This, you know what this plays as for me? It plays like Everything Everywhere All at Once from last year for the Oscars, because I remember that, and I said it once April hit and that movie came out. I was like, this is one of the best movies I've seen. You know what that's going to suffer from? It's going to suffer from May, June, July, August, September, October, December. That's what it's going to survive, because then people are going to have recency bias for whatever just came out, and then people are also going to be like, it happened so long ago, we forgot about the greatness of when it came out.
Yeah.
So, I had a feeling it was going to happen when it came, because obviously it was the first thing that came out in 2023 was The Last of Us. I was like, oh no, as soon as these other things start coming out, people are going to just forget about how the stranglehold that The Last of Us had on everybody.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the awards were flowing in for The Last of Us. Storm Reed gets her Oscar to go along with her TV sister Zendaya. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
Offerman gets his Oscar.
I mean, that was the thing, right? For the male one anyway, is which one do you give it to? Between him and Murray Bartlett. But I think Bill is the anchor of that episode.
Sure. Yep.
So I think it makes sense to give it to Nick Offerman. And then Storm Reed, I was not surprised.
I feel exactly how you feel.
But I was like, oh, like people actually recognized that, because I think when we talked about the episode, and it fell right exactly where I thought it would in the season. Like, oh, they're going to do Joel almost dying, do Left Behind, do Left Behind, and then do the finale.
Yep.
Which is exactly what happened. So I felt like maybe that Left Behind episode would kind of get a little bit lost in how it was received, but I think we both at the time were like, no, she was outstanding.
Yep.
Like, she carried that episode. So I'm happy for her that she kind of... I'm happy for both of them because it's obviously two characters we're never going to see again.
Yep. And
so
also, I knew nothing was going to beat Succession in a drama category for the main stuff. Like, nothing was going to... I am a bit surprised that Brian Cox beat out Jeremy Strong, though. That I was actually... And also, spoilers for Succession. He wasn't in the whole season of Succession either. But I guess his presence was there. But just the work that Jeremy Strong was putting into that character since 2019, I believe that show. It's just... It's phenomenal what he's able to do with a character like that. Because a character like that can play very bland. It also can unresonate. It's not a easily like a rich, spoiled kid. Like, that's not easily, like, taken in by a normal person, but, the evolution of what that character had, like, over the last couple of years, and, that doesn't come without Jeremy Strong, I think is something to be, something to marvel at. So, I'm really glad that show exists. I won't say I was a Succession denier, but I was a Succession, like, I'll get around to it. And then when I got around to it, I was like, oh boy.
And then we have the Golden Globes.
Oof. This was a fun one.
I mean, the Golden Globes are more often than not a precursor to what to expect at the Oscars.
And that's why it was very interesting.
And and I mean, Oppenheimer. doing the things that everyone thought Oppenheimer was going to do and has done.
When I tell you, I cannot wait for RDJ's, like, his award campaign it's gonna be phenomenal. And I know he's been waiting for this for so long. And how sweet it is. He vehemently turned his life around. Like, 99 out of 100 people can say they turned their life around. He was the 100th person. Like, that I have to be like, it's awesome. It's amazing. It's just like, it's a triumphant story. Like, I can't say anything else about it. So obviously Cillian Murphy wins Best Actor, which I don't think the only contest I can see to him is possibly Paul Giamatti, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But we said it when we saw Oppenheimer. We didn't even talk about Oppenheimer on here yet, because we will. That movie cannot not be talked about. That and Barbie at some point we will do. But it is one of the most magnifying performances I have ever seen. Like, that... and somebody just said it. They said, do I need to see Oppenheimer? It feels like a boring... Like, I know... No. It's... You know how I knew? It was the Can You Hear the Music scene. I knew something was afoot. What are they saying in what are they saying? Why can't I think of the Shakespeare play that Denzel in Macbeth?
Oh, Macbeth, yeah.
Yep. Something wicked this way comes. Like, I just knew something was afoot. Once it's phenomenal. It's a magnifying performance. We always say, like, spoilers for Oppenheimer, but the nuclear bomb goes off halfway through the movie. So how do you keep somebody engaged? You do what they do in the third act, and you turn courtroom proceedings into the most magnetic film watch that you can have. It's incredible. So shout out him. Obviously, I have my thought. I already said Interstellar. You can, it's a toss up for Interstellar and The Dark Knight, in my opinion, of like what Christopher Nolan's best movie is. But this is the best he's ever directed a movie. I don't even think that's up for debate. Like, the things he was pulling off is like 2018 LeBron James, like just the full-fledged version of yourself. Like, you are the best version of yourself. You've used your whole career to get to this point. So that was amazing. Paul Giamatti winning in a comedy category for The Holdovers, and that's a movie I hope gets a lot of love. Just watched that movie last week. That's my new Dead Poet Society, for lack of a better term.
Interesting.
It is such a feel-good movie, but I want to save this for the end for when you ask me what I've been doing.
Okay.
Only thing that's missing, in my opinion, there's two movies that are missing. One is Past Lives, and I think Past Lives is suffering from some of the things that The Last of Us is suffering from. It's what Everything Everywhere All at Once could have suffered from. I just think that a movie like that has been, some people have, forgotten, and I think it's recency bias. And, a lot of times movies of that, so like those more definitive, I don't even want to say love story, because that movie's not a love story at all. It's just something like that. It's just, it sucks, man. Like, it's like, I said that might be the only movie that I would put in the conversation with Oppenheimer, in my opinion, for the best movies of the year was Past Lives. And I'd said that since, when that movie come out in April or May, I said, like, I think this movie is just a revelation of storytelling. And it stinks. Like, Greta Lee, like, I thought she was going to get some more recognition. But, the Oscars are the Oscars, so hopefully some things change.
Yeah. It just feels like it almost, when it comes to those, the big ones, it just feels like everyone's just kind of clearing the runway for Oppenheimer at this point.
Because usually what happens is
Everyone knew it.
And this is, the conversation is like, is Oppenheimer one of the greatest movies, period, of all time? To me, it is. And I think it's going to get solidified, because usually here's what happens. You either sweep the technical stuff or you sweep the acting and then the picture. This might be one of those years
or your Lord of the Rings, and you do all of it.
Right.
Almost, except for the acting stuff.
And, that's my point, because they legitimately might be able to get you're going to get Best Picture. I don't think it's the best picture of the year. That's just undeniable. Yeah. You're going to get the best actor. Yep. You're going to get the best supporting actor, unless something happens.
Unless something happens.
I think Emily Blunt's lost traction for Best Supporting Actress because of The Woman from Holdovers. I think she's putting up a very great case for herself. But Emily Blunt, at that point in the year, I didn't see any contests for Emily Blunt. You're going to get Best Original Score. You're going to get Best Production Design, because Dune doesn't come out this year. So Dune, and all that was the technical fight that Oppenheimer was going to have, was Dune. That was the only thing that could have gave it some play. But now it just feels like you have like you said, a clear runway to, I'm talking like, this might be one of the biggest sweep years I've ever seen in the Oscars.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to win. What's it going to lose? Production design is great. Like,
it did at the Golden Globes, it did lose screenplay.
What did it lose to? Did it lose to The Holdovers, or what did it lose to? No, that was a drama. No, it didn't lose to Past Lives.
No, it did not lose. I just had it and I lost it. Lost to Anatomy of a Fall.
Oh, Anatomy of a Fall. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I won't lose my mind if it loses, like, best, because it's best adapted or original. Original, right?
Yes.
I won't lose my mind if it loses best original, because you're gonna take all the sound mixing, cinematography. You're gonna win. Like, you're not losing to anything else, and like, this is gonna be like a generational type of win. It's gonna be awesome.
It's the Baldur's Gate 3 of movies.
We didn't even talk about the Game Awards.
We didn't talk about the Game Awards. I'll do it at the end. Let's see what. Oh, so Tom Cruise owns Warner Brothers now. Let's talk about that.
Pulled a Thanos, dread it, run from it. Where did that bring you?
He struck some deal with. I've never heard of a deal like this.
Wasn't this whole thing supposed to happen with Paramount, where he was supposed to make all these things?
And then he's just like, nah.
Well, is he still doing that?
He can't now.
That's what you say. You didn't see the new Mission Impossible where he can do anything.
He struck this deal with Warner Brothers that, to my knowledge, has never happened with an actor. Where he's like exclusive to them, and he's gonna make and star in and produce just a bunch of films. He's gonna make original films. He's gonna make franchise films. Tom Cruise loves movies, y'all.
Yeah. You know, I love
I've never seen anything like this.
No, this is in the modern age, this is like unprecedented. That an actor's doing this, that just...
Who do you think he is? John Wayne? What is happening here?
I mean, did he not save cinema?
No, I mean, we talked about this when we talked about Top Gun, and we were like, he's like the last of like...
He's the last of
the bona fide like
the
movie stars.
It feels
and now,
like the truth.
So it makes sense that he's gonna. And Warner Brothers needs it. To be honest,
Timothée Chalamet doesn't do TV.
they need something like this, because I mean we've chronicled Warner Brothers' various struggles.
If this goes right, you know what Warner Brothers, and obviously Warner Brothers has the Turner section to it, so obviously they have all these classic movies under their belt. Like it's a legacied franchise. It's like the Lakers from like a couple. It's like you're a legacied franchise, but you're going through a tough time right now. Like that's what it feels like. Like you're still the same franchise that you were. So it's an interesting move. It's a move that I don't play as much as desperation maybe as I should. Maybe I should see this a little bit as desperation, but more
well, because it's Tom Cruise.
It feels
if
more
this
like...
was like, hey, Warner Brothers is doing an exclusive deal with like Bradley Cooper to do like movies and star and all this, you'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like Bradley Cooper's great, but
you didn't see Maestro. You notice how I didn't talk about Maestro for any of the award stuff?
He's not saving your company, but like Tom Cruise, it's like, do we still need this person on the team? And it's like, well, he's out there. If we can get him, we have to get him. And so they got him. So yeah, I'm curious.
I just thought he was so locked in with Paramount. That's kind of my thing.
I'm just curious to see what he's gonna do.
Well, obviously, one of the rumors is they want another Edge of Tomorrow. They want the Edge of Tomorrow sequel.
Yeah.
Which I think he'll do that.
He'd absolutely do it. Yeah.
I have a theory that him and James Gunn are gonna sit down and maybe he dips his toe into the superhero genre.
I mean, if you're gonna do something like this.
And
you have to try to do that.
Here's the thing. I don't know if he'd ever dip his toes into TV because this Lantern show is supposed to be television.
I don't think he would either. No. But he's a movie star.
But give me whatever the fallout from that. You see what I did there? Give me whatever the fallout of this is. So let me be Hal Jordan. Like, if you're going to let me do this, let me be one of the most iconic DC characters there are.
And for Warner Brothers and for DC, that's a, you want to talk about, you know, when we talk about video games, you talk about games that you develop that are console sellers. If all you have to do if you're DC and be like, Tom Cruise is going to be in a DC movie, that movie's going to make $1 billion.
That movie's going to make some change. It's going to make some money. And also, you know, and it was me watching Guardians. Like, it got it even more solidified. Like, I think that DC is there. I have a good feeling. I know I'm not supposed to, and I'm not supposed to have these like, you know, these early like feelings, but I just have a good feeling about what these DC movies are about to look like under James Gunn.
Yeah, if you put him on the bill of a DC movie,
just think about it. What if he is Hal, and then the whole thing is you just do Top Gun Maverick again, but I'm serious, and like he's right. The older Lantern, and then you make the other main character Kyle Rayner, and you have John Stewart around.
Because what Tom Cruise won't settle for is exactly what I talked about at the beginning of this episode. Like, if he's going to do a superhero movie, he's going to do a movie. He's going to do a movie that features a superhero.
Right. It's going to be a picture. It's going to be a film. Like, it's going
because
to be...
he's done Mission Impossible movies, and he's done these loud action movies that shouldn't have as much to them as they do.
Yep.
but they still have that.
It's
so I
insane.
feel like he would do that for a superhero movie. Like he'd be like, I'm making a movie here out of, and you know, to what we talked about earlier, like the studio is not going to tell him no.
Well, that's my thing too. He's getting whatever he wants.
He's getting whatever he wants. Exactly.
Whatever he wants.
So I'm interested. I'm in. I'm locked in.
So I said, my theory is he's gonna get something where it's like, I think it's gonna be like a Tom Cruise original. I don't know what Christopher McQuarrie's. I don't know what his role at Paramount is. That's my question, because if he's not, like, if he doesn't have a solidified contract at Paramount, then he's probably taking Christopher McQuarrie with him, and the two of them are going to make something original.
Sure.
He's probably going to get to do something really fun. I think he's going to do the sequel to Edge of Tomorrow, and I think he's going to, I just have this feeling him and James Gunn are going to do something together, and he's going to, because what if the sell for you is like, here, read this Jeff Johns Lantern Run, and then you get to do whatever you want out of that. What a sell. Like, you get to, like, one of the greatest comic runs of all time. Here, like, you do whatever you want to do out of this.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm still holding out hope that Glenn Powell plays Hal Jordan.
He should.
That might be the single most perfect casting as of right now.
Speaking of DC casting, so Supergirl is a thing. That is coming. It's on the horizon, as there's so many things in the superhero universe. So, 3 names just have been not thrown out there, but
apparently they did a test screening for three of them
with
today.
some reputation that Amelia Jones, Meg Donnelly, and to me most notably, House of the Dragons, Millie Alcock have been, you know, in some sort of, they're in the sphere for Supergirl, more or less. 3 great choices. I would love it for Millie Alcock to get that kind of shine, because I think she deserves it. I think when we talked about House of the Dragon, I think she was probably because she obviously didn't have the whole season for herself, but in the episodes that she was in, I think she was the best part of that show. While she was in it, I think she was incredible as Rhaenyra, and I would love for her to get that shine. But you and I are aligned in the fact that we think she should be Gwen Stacy.
It's like a power grab right now. Right? It's like she either plays Supergirl, which I think she also plays as the Woman of Tomorrow Supergirl a lot. Like, she just has that, has that energy of what they're going for. Who was the second one? The one that was in Coda? I actually, that's who I want out of the 3 of them, surprisingly, and it's funny because she looks
Amelia Jones.
Yeah, she looks the least out of like comic Supergirl out of the 3, but seeing her in Coda, seeing her in some other things, like, I don't know why that's the one that, like, I immediately, like, and also she's got to go with David Cornsweet too, so, like, I don't know why I see the 2 of them playing well together, but that's just kind of how I envision it.
Yeah, and then Meg Donnelly's probably the least renowned,
but I think looks wise, I think she has the closest look to Supergirl. So it's obviously, I think we're both in agreement. When you go to cast, you always go with the best. You don't necessarily need to go with I need the look. You need to go with the feel. That's the number one thing. And I mean, to be fair, I think Millie Alcock has both. Mm-hmm. Sure. So I just think she also has that for Gwen Stacy. Are you not going to talk about your thing for Spider-Man 4? Yeah. Look, I'm telling you. Whenever Rob says look, some of the greatest takes are about to be had. Spider-Man 4 top. You want to put Peter Parker in a really awkward position? You cast Millie Alcock as Gwen Stacy, and then you cast Sabrina Carpenter as Black Cat, because he's gonna have a tough time. I just want him in trouble. Yeah, the city's gonna fall, and he's gonna be in college on top of that. Kingpin is just demolishing the city. Shenanigans doesn't even begin to describe what would happen there. I think that would be brilliant, because and you've never really seen that before. Like, you've never seen Spider-Man mixed up with Gwen Stacy and Black Cat at the same time, and I think that would just be fun. You gotta put. Look, he's feeling himself a little bit. He beat up the Green Goblin. He saved the universe. He met his brothers. You gotta put him on the back foot a little bit. You know, he's Spider-Man now, so you know what that means. Shenanigans. Yep. Just wait till he gets a clone. And Daredevil's around now, so someone's got to keep up. Someone's got to keep up with Daredevil. Maybe we have to talk about Echo, because that now has to do with something.
Daredevil. That guy was in the MCU for 5 minutes, and he
almost saved the thing.
he's been in the MCU for 5 minutes across 3 different things.
Yeah, like how long is he? What's his runtime? He's been in it for like 20 something minutes altogether.
And most of it was She-Hulk.
Bulk of it was She-Hulk. Got a taste. You got a little taste in Echo. Mm-hmm. Oof. Mm-hmm. Woof. He's back.
He's back.
He's back.
Zach, the Riz Master.
Oh my gosh. He can't help himself.
He can't. That's what it is. He can't help himself.
He can't help himself.
He may not be able to see, but he knows it when he feels it.
Come on, man. Well, I mean, he has to. How else would he know?
Exactly.
My bad.
He can't help himself. That's why they got rid of Karen. They were like, there's too much going on.
Yeah. It's tough.
Daredevil's gonna hook up with every MCU female character in existence.
Maybe some of the male characters too. You never know.
You never know. It could happen. And then so The Last of Us, we're circling back. We've circled back to The Last of Us because we got a heap of castings for the season 2 cast. Mm-hmm. We recognize these names of the characters and the actors. So we're rounding out the Last of Us Part 2 group. Not rounding out, but we cracked the iceberg.
Right. Jackson basically is where you need, like, you got to round out Jackson basically.
So we have young Menzino as Jesse.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot, and it's somebody that he's kind of on the rise too, especially after Beef. Maybe that's the pipeline. Maybe I should get cast in that show, and I'll have a great career. But no, I think that's a really good cast. It was like a casting of like. Who's one of the best looking people we can find? Also, his body of work is pretty solid. So no, I think that's a good casting. I think it's a good because he's younger too. I don't think he's like old or anything like that.
No, none of them are particularly old, which is good.
Which makes sense because they're all in their late teens, early 20s when they're in Jack. Jesse might be a little bit older, but nothing crazy.
Today, just across the wire, we had Isabella Merced cast as Dina.
Yep, which
I know a lot of people are excited for.
Yep.
Especially since we got like a tiny cameo of Dina last season for those. I mean, I don't want to spoil it too much. I mean, we'll probably talk about The Last of Us Part 2
in a couple weeks.
So I'll save the spoilery stuff. But Dina is a consequential character in The Last of Us Part 2. So, and then the big one, the big dog,
Caitlin that's built like an ox.
Caitlin Dever as Abby.
Don't even think about it.
Don't even think about it.
You incel, mean, idiotic. I don't have any more adjectives, but stop.
Yes. Golden Globe nominated actress for
Say
Dope
that one more time.
Golden Globe nominated actress for Dope Sick and Unbelievable. So
leave her alone.
Yes.
She has not played one moment as Abby yet.
No.
You have not seen her in the show yet.
Yeah. Abby, for those who don't know, is she important.
Is she one of the single most controversial video game characters ever? She has to be.
On the merits of just character design and not like withstanding like any actual controversy.
Right.
You mean?
Yeah. Like actual in-universe controversy, yes.
Yes. Easily.
And I'm talking all time in any video game of all time.
Yeah. Nothing really comes close because anything when you think about like controversial things in video games, it's usually like elements, right? Mm-hmm. So you think like Grand Theft Auto, like GTA. Obviously, it's controversial.
Sure.
Because it's supposed to be.
Right.
The Abby thing was just. I mean, and I'm glad we're talking about this last because it's going to segue into like the leak stuff. The Abby thing started before she even got revealed as a character because, spoiler alert, The Last of Us Part 2 got leaked probably 2 weeks before it got released. In the same vein that we're going to talk about the Insomniac and Suicide Squad leaks. In the same vein that those things got leaked, this also got leaked in the sense of like, it was essentially the plot beat for beat, got leaked. It got some things wrong, because some, Neanderthals got a hold of it and they were like, oh, Abby's a transgender character, this, that, and other thing. So that that took things to like a whole nother level because of of what happens, and I'm going to say what happens now. Spoiler alert, don't listen to this part if you don't want to know anything about Last of Us Part 2 or what potentially, most likely, will be coming in Season 2 of The Last of Us. Abby kills Joel.
Mm-hmm. And not like at the end of the game some stinger. No, this is like the end of the epilogue is...
The end of the prologue, Essentially the prologue of the game ends with Abby killing Joel. Which got leaked. People were like, Joel dies within the first 20 minutes of the game. People lost it. Lost their minds. Mind you, before the game even came out. Before we had even seen this character. Because a lot of The Last of Us Part 2 promotional stuff was this cryptic kind of... The biggest thing was this trailer that came out. That was one of the only trailers that came out for the game. You mean that
cinematic trailer, right?
The cinematic trailer with Ellie in the cabin.
Right, you just knew you were playing as Ellie in this game instead of, like, you knew Ellie was going to be, like, a big element.
It was Ellie in a cabin playing the guitar by herself. And you don't see Joel, but you hear his voice, and he goes, "What are you going to do, kiddo?" And that's pretty much the trailer. That's the whole trailer.
And then she, like, you super cut to her in Seattle just standing on business.
So... I mean, at least I got the interpretation. I don't know if anyone else got this. My interpretation from that trailer was always been that something happened to Joel. Because it's a very weird, cryptic trailer that you only hear his voice. Well, you see, like, a door open, and you see, like, a shadow, and you only hear his voice. He goes, "So what are you going to do, kiddo?" And then, like you said, there's a super cut of just gameplay, basically, action. You never get the impression that there's a secondary main character. You never get the sense that Abby is a part of this, at least a part of the gameplay of the game.
Sure.
And the first thing that you get out of that is from this leak that people in the leak were like, you do all this as Ellie and then you become Abby. And people were not happy. So going back to your original point, like, notwithstanding, like, setting aside any outside controversy, just pure in-game controversy, Abby is a controversial figure, and for just no reason.
And so, I mean, I told you this, and this is my whole take on the situation, and it's sad because once you get those people like that, they just, you don't understand, like, you are the very person that this is targeted at without you even realizing it. You know what Joel's death is supposed to be? Grief. I don't understand why it's so difficult to understand this. It's not supposed to feel good that Joel just died and Joel was just murdered. Like, you're like, that's the whole point. That, like, Ellie's father figure is gone. Like, and it's not like he was, like, died and he was murdered abruptly. Like, that's real life. Like, if somebody you know dies, you're not like, well... I'm not talking of old age. I'm talking when somebody you know passes away unexpectedly. You're probably not like, well, it is. No, you're like, I'm beside myself right now. That's the whole freaking point. And that's why it does not feel good when Joel is murdered. And Abby just had to be the one that does it. And again, going even further, what is the whole point of The Last of Us Part 2? There's two main themes. Number one, well, if it isn't the consequences for my actions of me potentially sacrificing the entire human race. And you know what it came in the form of? Of this woman named Abby. That was my Grim Reaper that came to me. You know what number two is? The cycle of violence. Does it need to continue or does it not? That's what the whole Last of Us Part 2 is about. And once you play as Abby, and I don't know what it was, when I was playing Part 2, I talked about it on here, I had like a spiritual awakening at the end of that game, because I was like, it was like Danny DeVito and Always said, like, I get it. Like, I finally understand. Like, I get it. I hope some people have that same awakening, because I'll stand on this. I think The Last of Us Part 2 is one of the best stories told. I just think it's absolutely phenomenal. I think storytelling wise, it's like maybe crazy, but I think it's a better story than The Last of Us Part 1. Like, I think story elements beat is a better story. Like, the actual, like, when you tell somebody a story, like The Last of Us Part 2 plays. You know, and my biggest issue with The Last of Us Part 2 is pacing. I think that is the number one derailment of that game, is the way the game is it's structured is just, it's not.
And I think, or I hope, that the TV show is going to remedy
And
that.
what did we say about season 1 and the whole story of The Last of Us Part 1? It plays a little better as a television show than it does a video game.
And I think I've said this for a long time, that I think The Last of Us Part 2 can benefit more as a TV show than as a video game, because I think you iron out a lot of those pacing problems. I think you iron out one of the issues that I have with it, in the sense that I don't really feel a ton about Abby's crew. I don't think they're particularly well developed.
Sure, yep.
Because you're not with them for very long. And I think, speaking of young Manzino's character, Jesse, I think that character can benefit a lot from a little more exploration. Because he's kind of in the beginning. So again, I don't want to talk about the game too much because we're going to talk about it. He's in the beginning of the game for a bit, and then he kind of disappears, and then he's back for a bit, and then he's gone. That's it. So I think that character can benefit a lot from a little bit, and I think, based on everything Craig Mazin has said, that Last of Us Part 2 is going to be probably 2 seasons.
I think they want the Jackson stuff, and I obviously this is again like the whole sports contract thing of like, oh, I want the championship, I want the thing to happen, and then no, I gotta make some money. So like Pedro Pascal, he makes you money. I'm sorry, like that's just the truth of the matter, is that man will make you money. So if you can keep him around for longer, if that means a whole season, and then like, what's going to play even better? The whole derailment of their relationship is going to play along season 2. And then I think we're going to intercut with some Abby lore. And to your point, like getting some of, Abby's, like the Wolf team, like some of their characters more flushed out and stuff.
And then you smash them together. Mm-hmm. That's what I would do.
If you want to take a swing that would just demolish the internet, you have Joel's death be the season finale of season 2, and then you say, wait, you're going to wait a year and a half, and then you're going to get the payoff to this whole thing. I think
that's 100% possible. I think they can totally set that up.
Because on paper, your season 2 finale would probably be in terms of television storytelling, like, that might have to be your finale in season 2 to keep people hooked like that. Is like, all right, well, this is gonna be your excuse me. Maybe it even is maybe the whole reveal is like, you have your Abby stuff cut with your Ellie, Joel, Jackson stuff, and then like the end of season 2 is Joel just walks in the room with Tommy, and that's it. And then it cuts. And you're just like, what'd you say your name was? It's Joel. And then
I think they can even play up the mystery of everything a bit. Like maybe you kind of build up Abby as like this separate entity.
Sure.
And kind of like how the game does it, but in a more, the game condenses it a bit of like, she's looking for someone, and you don't know who or why.
I love it. Yep.
Or what. But you make her a sympathetic character.
Yeah.
Like maybe you just build it into her backstory in the show of like, someone out there killed her father. Mm-hmm. You don't know who, you don't know why, you don't know when.
Don't tell me what her father did. Just have her be at Wolf, getting yoked, getting built.
Yeah, and just let her, because...
I wonder who's going to play Owen as well. Like, that's who you got to develop, all those other characters.
People will fall in love with a revenge story. So if you present Abby as this character that is out for revenge for something...
I'm so glad you said that, because that's another thing that just gets me so angry about people not understanding it.
Yeah.
It's perspective. Perspective is everything. Think about it from Abby's perspective. This psychopath just murdered my father, who was trying to save the human race.
Yeah.
I want everybody that just vehemently hates that game to say that sentence and be like, if you were Abby, what would you do? You'd be, it's Joel, so I don't care. Like, no,
you're Joel Miller from The Last of Us.
Oh, okay. But you're Papa Pedro Pascal.
You're the main character.
You're the main. Oh, my bad. No, I'd want to murder that man.
No, I'm actually the main character now.
I would give anything to kill that man. Like that's. But
I think that's how you can hook it.
I can't. I can't talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
I can't talk.
But I think that's how you can hook people. You make Abby this sympathetic character that like, no, I actually want to see her bring this killer to justice.
And again, I think something they're going to play into is like they're going to be two pieces of the same puzzle, like Abby and Ellie. Like they're going to be like these two people that are like, cosmically destined for each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
What's one thing you want from The Last of Us Part 2 in the show? But all right, let me rephrase. What's one prologue piece? Because I feel like the first 2 episodes of The Last of Us got really famous off the prologues. So what's a prologue that you want?
I want to see some unintended fallout of Joel's decision. Like, I want to see the state of the world.
You think people will find out? Well, obviously some people had to find out.
Not necessarily find out what he did specifically, but like kind of show like maybe the world's gotten worse since that, you know? Maybe because like really all you see in The Last of Us Part 2 is Jackson, which is great little community.
It's a smart move. It's a smart
rebuilt.
Exactly.
And then you see Seattle, which is less so. But I would love to see kind of like that kind of piece of it. Like, no, this one man's actions had consequences on
a global scale,
hundreds of thousands of people,
hundreds of thousands, it's maybe millions of
like maybe
millions.
you show like a city that's completely overrun with infected. Maybe you just see like a random like family just get devoured because this guy maybe had the keys to the castle and he gave them away. So I think that would be kind of interesting because I think what the first season did really well on is showing that, like showing that zoomed out perspective of the world.
Exactly, it's so genius.
So I think if you're going to do that again in season 2, you would do it that way. Like you would present it in a way that like his actions had direct consequences, not even pertaining to himself. And I think that's kind of how you also start building up the Abby stuff also. Like you show like that what he did, it wasn't the only decision. A lot went into it. So I think that's something.
I hope the Scar Queen, whoever that figure was, I hope they do like a whole prologue dedicated to that. Because again,
that'd be cool.
Zoom out. Like, who are some other of these people? You know what that would also play into? That whole idea from the Henry and Sam episode from episode 5. Like, I think that's a really cool perspective of like just this prologue that's dedicated to like on Outbreak Day, like who were the people that like, because we always hear about like all the destruction, like what's the other side of the coin? Who are the people that held this thing together? And obviously the Scars are like not the best people and they're a cult borderline. I can make the argument that WLF is also a cult. Like maybe Jackson's like the only place that's like, and obviously there's probably more places like Jackson, but you're probably going to find a lot more places like the Scar ran Seattle than you will Jackson. Like that's just a matter of the fact. So I just want to see, maybe they pull in like an A-list actor or something, because just have them cameo for like an episode and just be like, this is the fallout, this is this person, like this almost deified figure that turns Seattle into like this beacon of like cultists and like, but like hope to them of like, I think that would be a really good prologue to an episode. And I think that would give a lot of time for Craig Mazin to cook himself of like how good he is at this stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, we'll probably talk about The Last of Us because the remaster comes out next week.
Yep.
The 19th.
19th.
Yeah, it comes out the night. So next Friday, so probably the following week.
And I've been waiting.
We'll probably do a deep dive review, all that stuff on Last of Us Part 2. But all that being said, that kind of segued into the last thing that I wanted to talk about, which was these leaks, leak culture. This is like our leak culture trilogy because I feel like we've been beating this on different degrees for the last couple weeks, whether it's, set photo leaks or casting leaks or whatever. So we had a pretty massive video game leak, 2 pretty massive video games leaks, one of which was against Rocksteady, which...
We could start with that, because the other one's more important, I think. The other one is, like, more detrimental, so... Yeah,
so Rocksteady got hacked. The Suicide Squad kills the Justice League plot essentially leaked online. Much of, like I said, happened with The Last of Us 2. Same thing happened, kind of Reddit thread, beat by beat. Here's the plot, and much like The Last of Us 2, people were not happy.
Nope.
I don't want to dive into it too much, but some things happened that people are not happy with. And relates to especially the character of Batman. Essentially, is what it boils down to. People were not happy about how Batman is reportedly treated in this game, especially being it's Kevin Conroy's final performance as Batman. And look, just knocking that off right off the bat, Rocksteady did not know this was going to be the last time Kevin Conroy was going to be Batman. So it's unfortunate that this game is called what it's called, and it's not a spoiler to say the plot of the game is essentially you do the thing, for lack of a better word. You do the thing.
Wait, just say the title of the game again?
Suicide Squad kills the Justice League.
What do you mean they're going to kill the Justice League? That doesn't make sense. How could they kill Batman in a game called Suicide Squad kills the Justice League?
So the thing that the title of the game says, you do the thing, and people are just not happy about it. I'm not happy about the game for reasons beyond that. I think the live service element of this game is a massive mistake. And I feel like I'm vindicated on that based on some pre-release gameplay that articles that have been written. I feel like people are like, why, and it's funny, we kind of agreed that, hey, the story probably is going to be pretty good.
It might be fun.
And that's what people are saying. People are saying, hey, the story beats are pretty good.
I don't know if this is okay to say, but was it the Guardians of the Galaxy game that changed everything? I'll add it further. I think it was the Avengers game coupled with the Guardians of the Galaxy game that changed superhero gaming a little bit, because Avengers live service does not work. Some of our favorite beats was the story of that game, especially the Kamala Khan perspective. Some fun stuff. And then the game derails itself because you have to play online. You have to. You can't.
And this, for all intents, Suicide Squad kills the Justice League is the exact same build. It's the exact same model. Right. If not worse.
Right. And I just think that's just an absolute mistake. That's not story. And, now we're in this realm. We were talking before we hopped on here, we were just talking about Ghost of Tsushima. That's where we are. These story-led games, it's this is what people want to play now. People want these characters to latch onto and, these big worlds to explore and, some it's fun. I just feel like we're at such a and those games do have place. They're your live service games. I just don't think for a Suicide Squad game. And then my point for Guardians of the Galaxy, you know why Guardians of the Galaxy played so well? Because their number one concern was story. And not this story where, you're gonna get cut off because I have to play an online mission. No, it was an incredibly expansive story that just had lore for days, that was lived in, that was personal, that was emotional. That's what's gonna sell you some tickets now and sell you some games.
And I'm not saying that this game can't be that, but unfortunately it's gonna be undercut by all the live service stuff. Because ultimately what ends up happening with these live service games is the story is a very small part of it. Because what the developers want is the long-term, money.
Yep.
That comes from the live service.
But how did that go Rob, just tell me how that went for the Avengers.
Well, I mean, it's dead.
Exactly.
The game is gone.
And that's the Avengers. That wasn't the Suicide. That's the Avengers.
Yeah. So that game. I mean, the game's more. It's dead. Died last year. They put all the content, all the cosmetics went up for free, and which. Hear me out. Maybe they should have just been doing that.
Maybe you should have played the game in a story mode setting to unlock the cosmetics. Isn't that a crazy concept? It's nuts.
So the Suicide Squad game is, history's doomed to repeat itself. It's repeating itself.
You're repeating yourself. You're repeating yourself.
Complete with the battle pass and the unlockable character, or unlockable skin, or not even unlockable skins. Currency based skins. It's got the loot system, the Fortnite loot system, for lack of a better word.
It's unfortunate, and it's just funny because Gotham Knights came and went. That game was
without
a thought. That game was just out, and people were like, oh, "Okay, well."
And it's just a shame too, because I know when this game first got announced, and it was Rocksteady is doing a Suicide Squad game. It's continuing the Arkham universe. I was like, that sounds awesome.
Said, okay, I'm in. I'm listening.
And then I started hearing more of it, and then I was
I saw that screenshot of them in the Fortnite-esque, and I was like, oh no.
Yep.
I turned into the Riddler from the Batman. No.
I saw the the gray and the green and the purple and the blue and the guns, and I'm like, oh no. I saw the horde of Brainiac monsters that you're zipping it. And to be fair, the game does looks fun to actually pick up and play, but it's not something that like I said, because I know how these live service games are, I'm gonna go into it for the story, and then the story's gonna be done in 10 hours, and then I'm gonna be expected to just keep playing this thing every day.
Spend some money on it
for no reason, and I'm just not doing it.
Yep.
I'm not doing it.
Now there is a franchise of games that do understand the story mode element and that does it extremely well, and that's Insomniac. And to our surprise, a couple of years ago, I think last year, we got the long-awaited realization that we were getting a Wolverine game. And in my mind, I was like, give me Insomniac Spider-Man and mix it with Red Dead Redemption, for lack of a better term, and put it in the same game. I'm in. Like, I'm there. Like, this gunslinger Western-esque superhero story with Wolverine on top of it, like, that's gonna play. Like, that's a game that I would pick up. Unfortunately, leak culture is leak culture, so the very beta, like I'm talking like the earliest
pre-alpha.
Pre-alpha is the politically the politically correct term. Was leaked.
On top of, I think it was in the realm of like 2 terabytes of data.
Yeah.
That this ransomware group got a hold of. They said, Insomniac, give us money and we will not release your data. Insomniac, rightly so, was like, we're not going to do that. So they put the data out there. Released some, about like a 10-year roadmap essentially for what Insomniac has been working on, will be working on. And I mean, the big thing was the Wolverine pre-alpha footage got released. Not just got released, but got released to the point that people got a hold of playable builds.
Yep.
That was
suits and
that was snuffed out pretty quickly.
Yeah. I
know if you partook in downloading that and trying to put it on your PC, you were located rather quickly. So that's not so much an issue. And specifically around the Wolverine stuff, people were somehow like, this game looks like crap. And I'm like, yeah, guys, of course it does.
Am I stupid? I thought that looked pretty dang cool. I thought it looks.
Yeah, it looked, because people only look at like how it played in the animation stuff, which are not remotely close to being done.
That game's gonna come out on whatever the next version of the PS5 is, like whatever, like the net, like when they do like their PS5 Pro, whatever. Like,
yeah,
it's gonna have every single bell and whistle that you can ask for.
Yeah, so people were not happy about how it looks, and then a bunch of Spider-Man stuff got leaked. Particularly that they were working on a Grand Theft Auto Online-esque Spider Universe game.
Yeah, they probably want a multiverse thing.
Which, I'm glad. Shelve it.
Yeah,
I told you, I said this last time we talked on the podcast, that there are 2 kind of major live service games that have any type of staying power. One is Fortnite, one is Grand Theft Auto Online. That's it. If you're gonna try and do a thing and you can't challenge either of those 2, don't do it. Because people only have a finite amount of money, and people are putting a lot of money into both of those games. So if you're not gonna challenge those 2 titles, don't.
Remember, what was the Warner Brothers game that came out that we thought was gonna just be an absolute titan of industry, and just again another one that just kind of fell by the wayside, surprisingly so. It's tough in these streets. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's just it is sad that these got leaked, especially specifically the Insomniac stuff. I wanted to imagine seeing that, like, because you remember the feeling in 2016 of getting that first gameplay of Fist Tower. Like, imagine we got that, but for Wolverine, like that first gameplay of like, oh, this is how this is supposed to be,
and a bunch of other stuff that, is coming in the pipeline. That Insomniac apparently now has this deal with Marvel, where they're going to be developing some X-Men related stuff, potentially.
Like an X-Men actual game, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a Fantastic Four thing in there? I could be wrong.
I don't think so. I think they only really hit the Wolverine stuff, the X-Men stuff, the Spider-Man stuff, and then just a Ratchet and Clank like thing that is in the pipeline. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, it just goes back to what we were talking about and what we have been talking about. Like, who benefits from this type of stuff?
Exactly.
Nobody.
Now you just delayed because the same thing happened to Grand Theft Auto 6. You guys now just delayed the game even further that you're so desperately to cling on to.
Yeah.
Like, they think it's like a movie thing where, like, you're going to do the thing, so the studio's like, all right, just have the trailer. No. You're going to get it. and the developers are going to be like, well, we can redo anything. It's not like I have actors that were like, we're going to redo some stuff now.
Yeah, and it goes even deeper than that, into like the actual coding, which was the Grand Theft Auto issue. Is like once the code is out there, you got to like rebuild the thing from scratch essentially, because you can't have people with access to that coding, because then they can just do whatever they want to the game when it comes out.
Yeah.
So you got to like, man, it just sucks. It sucks. And for a world where people are so staunchly supportive of like game developers and people who work for game developers being like, you got to stop time crunching them and this, that, and the other thing. Like when you do stuff like this, that's ultimately who it hurts. Like you're hurting like you're not hurting the corporations themselves.
No, you're hurting the actual.
You're hurting the people that like work there and work on these things. These hundreds of people that there could be one person that just their job is dedicated to like moving a character's arm or moving their character rig. Like that's their whole job for months, is just making sure that this character rig works. And now you've reset, their workload. And, you would hope that the companies would understand, that this sucks and not crunch their employees to work 20-hour days, 18-hour days. But there's no guarantee that won't happen, because at the end of the day, the big dog, the big company that's even above Insomniac is Marvel, and Marvel is going to be like, hey, where's our Wolverine game?
Right. Yep.
So, and that could potentially diminish the quality of the final product if they feel like they're, under some type of crunch.
Exactly.
I think there's an element of Spider-Man 2 that suffered possibly from that. Especially as it relates to like certain things that may not have been in the game that people were expecting to be in the game. I think that has to do a lot with meeting deadlines. So yeah, it just sucks. Like the whole weak culture thing has just gradually annoyed me more and more.
Across all media.
All media, because, it's easy to say, oh, just don't look at it.
No, shut up.
And you can't not look at it, because
you open Twitter, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And then people build opinions and everything just based off leaked footage, or just the saturation in general. Like not even the leak stuff, but like just the oversaturation of like people just, overanalyzing literally everything that comes out about a certain thing is just like something that is just exhausting.
Whatever happened to living? Experiencing
and just enjoying the thing when you get the thing, in
the great words of my man from Dune Part 1, I can't remember his name, and that's unfortunate. What did he say? The mystery of life is not a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. Those are the bars right there.
Those are the bars to be talking about.
And I believe that 100%. Like whatever happened to us, just experiencing. And whatever happened to why do we have to hate everything? Why do we have to hate everything is a great point. Why do we have to just hate so much?
There's not many things that come out anymore with like universal acclaim.
And me. Like I guess one of my things is I get cooked for liking a lot more things than people do, and I'm like, it's tough. Like it's tough to make stuff and to put yourself out there and to work on something. Like these things are incredibly difficult. So I'm sorry if I sympathize with these people a little bit more, but at the end of the day, like, why is everybody so mad and angry?
Why everybody so mad?
Why everybody so mad?
It's just frustrating, because a lot of things suffer from this, in the sense of like, because of the leak culture and the speculation culture and the analyzing every freeze frame of a screenshot, it makes people go into things with these preconceived notions, and these opinions that they already hate it. They already hate it before it comes out. Or conversely, they say they already love it before it comes out. And that's not the way these things were meant to be consumed. Like they just were not meant to be. You're not supposed to have preconceived notions, in the sense that like, obviously we get trailers and we get stuff like official things that like people show off. But like at the same time, even some of these companies fall for it, in the sense that like they put out a launch trailer, they put out a second launch trailer, they put out a screenshot, they do millions and trillions of interviews about a thing. Like sometimes you just got to pull back the reins a little bit and just let the thing speak for itself. I agree. Ultimately, because then people start taking quotes out of context, and they start taking other things out of context, and it just drives me crazy. It really does. That's my rant. It's my leak rant, and it's not the last one we're gonna have, unfortunately, because this is where we're at.
Yep.
Like, this is where we're at. It's only a matter of time before the next thing gets leaked, and we're like, well, here we are again. And you wonder, you wonder why people get fatigued on things, because they don't want to be constantly reading that their thing sucks before their thing is even out. Like,
Exactly.
like, why am I working on this if you think it sucks already?
Exactly.
But that's it. That's all I got. So, in the spirit of our return, we thought we'd bring back a fan favorite segment. The what have you been doing segment, for lack of a better word.
In the great words of Matthew McConaughey, Livin. But y'all don't care about that. Did you just have to look up to see if you remember how to spell living? That was tough on your part.
I was looking up to see if you spelled it right.
Yeah, I did. Livin.
Okay.
You know, just been watching stuff. But you guys want to hear about the pictures, because that's why I signed my multi-million-dollar deal to be here. You guys want to hear about the cinema, the pictures. The two I really want to talk about one is Iron Claw. That is one of my favorite movies of the year, about the Von Herrick family, headlined by Zac Efron, Harrison Dickinson, Jeremy Allen White. Just phenomenal film. It is gut-wrenching. It is a tough watch, but it's emotional. It deals with grief. It deals with, family and your love for your family and how deep it can flow. And it's overall it's one of those ones where it just stays with you. Like it wouldn't leave me alone for days in my mind. And those are the best pictures, in my opinion. It's something that Martin Scorsese said. They asked him, like, what makes a good movie? It's like, it's the ones that just stick with you for a little bit. And I just couldn't get that movie out of my head. It's so emotional. It's so well done. I love the structure of it, because, like, the first act is like wrestling, cool, Von Erichs, and then the second act's like, uh-oh, and then the third act's I have depression. Like, that is the structure of that movie, but it's just so well done. And A24 has a hit on their hands. It's the best Zac Efron's ever been in his career, and that's saying something. Jeremy Allen White, obviously, it's he's got this good, cool dichotomy between, just this, like, melancholy man mixed with, like, this ferociousness, which I think is really what defines him as an actor right now. And it's just so well made. I was just a huge fan of that, and I didn't think anything was going to come close to that in my late watch of the year. And then I saw The Holdovers with Paul Giamatti, and that movie is like, when, like, they went into the cinema and they were like, what movie would Court love? And then they made The Holdovers specifically for me. And isn't that not a good take on cinema? And I always say this, like, good movies and good stories are just, it doesn't need to be this thing that's either critically acclaimed or universally accepted. It's just got to be one person needs this thing. And that was The Holdovers for me this year. It's just, it's like it's feel good. Again, it's emotional, but just the main characters from that movie. I mean, Paul Giamatti, again, he's maybe at the best he'd ever been in his career. Maybe that and John Adams are the best he's ever been in his career. He's phenomenal in this. It's thought-provoking in a realm you didn't think was thought-provoking. It's still got that same energy of, like, those iconic 80s and 90s coming-of-age movies. It's just, and Dominic Sessa is a revelation. He's like 21 or something, or 20 or something like that. That guy's got a career ahead of him, an absolute career ahead of him. So, he actually went to the school that they used for the movie. Cool. And he just auditioned, and that was his first major production. And wow. You would have thought this guy's been acting since he was a young child, but he hasn't. So,
it's a little bit of a Iman Vellani situation, where her first role was Ms. Marvel, which is crazy.
Exactly. Man, what a picture! What a time! I love the movies, man. I'm like Tom Cruise of this I'm the Tom Cruise of this podcast.
You spoiled it.
I love the movies.
You spoiled yourself. What have I been doing? I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, finally. So, I told you I was going to get back around to the Game Awards, and like I said, the Oppenheimer of the Game Awards this year was Baldur's Gate 3, and it was one of the only Game of the Year games that I did not play this year. So I finally was like, hey, I have some time, which I need, and I'm going to play Baldur's Gate 3. And yeah, it's good. It's as good as advertised. The character work is fantastic. Neil Newbon, who voices the half-elf vampire Astarion, much deserved Performance of the Year award. The world is so well written. For those of you who don't know, it's based on Dungeons and Dragons, essentially. And you get these 6 origin characters that you can pick from, or you can create your own character and interact with these 6 characters. And the degree of freedom that you are granted in this game is just staggering. It's unbelievable. Like, the way you approach encounters, you can approach it any way you want. From just kind of rushing in there and getting it done to you can assess the situation. You can grab a bunch of barrels. You can line all the barrels up. You can shoot a fire arrow or a spell into the exploding barrels. And
I'm in.
Boom, 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 boom. You can explode everybody that way. Characters can die at will. Characters can leave your party. You can play the game literally however you want. Depending on what type of character you build, indicates kind of the paths that you're allowed to take, in the sense of like, hey, I killed this person, but I'm a wizard and I have the spell that lets me bring people back from the dead and I can question them, but if you build like a paladin, you don't have that luxury. So like that path is not available to you. Like it's insane. It's a staggering amount of freedom that you're given. For any conversation can lead to anywhere. And it is niche in the sense that like it's a turn-based kind of strategy combat system instead of like a big action-y thing. But, man, I've been loving it, and I know I'm not going to have time to finish it because it's a game that you can easily spend hundreds of hours with. And, I'm eyeing The Last of Us again. So I'm going to be playing The Last of Us Part 1 again, and then The Last of Us Part 2 when it comes out. But for now, playing Baldur's Gate 3 has been a revelation, much deserved Game of the Year consideration and acclaim for it because it's been incredible. That's really all I could say about it.
I mean, there's a reason why it swept.
Yeah, it's... I played Spider-Man 2, I played Final Fantasy 16, I played Alan Wake, and those games are all great. I mean, we've talked about how 2023 was for gaming. It was insane. Mm-hmm. Any of these games could have won Game of the Year in any other year. But this game Baldur's Gate 3 is special. It's a generational game in the same vein that The Witcher 3 was, in the same way that Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War 2018, Grand Theft Auto 5, it stands on that, like that kind of pantheon. And speaking of God of War, I did play God of War Ragnarok's DLC Valhalla.
Yes.
Woof! Man, when you talk about just a flex, that's what Santa Monica Studios put out. They said they undersold it, if anything. So the Game Awards was like, hey, God of War DLC Valhalla, it's a roguelike God of War mode, it's free, have fun. And then I played it and I was like, wait, is this some of the best story stuff that they've ever done with
Always was
with God of War? Man, it's incredible. From just for the people, the naysayers that are like, oh, the Norse stuff took away from the Greek stuff because he's not mad anymore and killing everybody. Valhalla directly confronts that idea. Right down to it directly relates to the Greek stuff. Confronts it in the most awesome way possible. I don't want to spoil it because, I think the ending of it is worth getting into and but again, Lee Culture, you've probably seen the ending on TikTok or Twitter or something.
I saw it immediately, it sucks, but it is great. It was the monologue is just...
Oh, Christopher Judge.
It's just that actually might be the best he's ever been, and that's saying something.
I I agree. It's between that and the scene with Athena in God of War 2018 in terms of like his ability. Also, I enjoyed that he made people. I enjoyed that he made COD people mad when he said his speech at the Game Awards was longer than the COD campaign.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I enjoy that
Not
made
bad.
people mad. So good on him. I'm a big Christopher Judge stan.
We love you, Christopher Judge.
Especially when he said, he would not dare to attempt to replicate T.C. Carson's portrayal of Kratos in any type of thing. So, just shout out to him. Huge respect. And on that note, we will be wrapping it up for this week. It's been a fun episode. I love these kind of just lay back and
Just chat.
and chat episodes that we do on occasion. But next week we're probably going to talk about Echo, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about Marvel's newest project, Echo, the first one of 2024. I
think we talked about it, one of 4 total projects.
Yeah, not a lot this year.
That Marvel's putting out. What If already came and went?
Yep. Yeah. What if is gone? Maybe we'll throw in a little what if action in there, but that's next week will be dedicated to Echo. We might also do a little landscape of just Marvel 2024. Maybe we just have a discussion of
Apparently the first Deadpool trailer might be coming out Super Bowl Sunday.
Just saw that.
Which makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
That's another thing. Obviously, one of our favorite episodes to do is the Super Bowl recap.
Yep. Oscars episode obviously will be in a little bit, but that I'm looking forward to. And maybe we have to run up a crowd favorite, the Project Infinite Awards.
Yeah.
Needs to come back.
Would love to. We're going to talk Echo next week. I've watched 3 episodes. You've watched the whole thing?
The whole thing, yep.
Definitely doesn't start the way I thought it was going to.
Nope. I immeditely texted Rob and I was just like, "Is this the? I had to
double check to make sure I was watching the right show. I paused my Disney Plus and I'm like, wait, did I click on something else by accident? It's. I really enjoy where I think it's going, or not where I think it's going, but it similar to like almost not season 1 of The Mandalorian, but it has that kind of Western lone gunslinger defending the small town energy to it, which I like.
I think Olinqua Cox is also great as Echo.
Tremendous.
I think it's something to be said about physical acting, which she does. There's a bit in the first episode. There's a fight, and she does 2 things in the fight that I was like, I love it. Like, it's just those little things that add characterization. I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far, but she gets into a fight in the first episode, and she gets kicked, and she hits the ground, and I'm like, there's just those little choices I think that are so good.
Yeah. It's she's really, really, really good. I'm really, really enjoying that character.
And obviously, Vincent D'Onofrio is just magnificent as Wilson Fisk.
Yeah.
He has not lost once. He's much better in this than he was in Hawkeye as well. And obviously it's not his fault for Hawkeye. He was thrown into Hawkeye because the rights got back, and Marvel was just like, how do we get him in there? How do we get Daredevil and how do we get Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio in here immediately?
Get him in there. We'll talk about Echo next week and probably talk about What If a little bit. What If was a bit of a nothing to me.
Yeah. What was your favorite episode?
I like the finale, to be honest.
Finale was cool. That Peter Quill episode 3, it was the late 80s Avengers. I thought was pretty dang fun.
I also liked the first episode.
Yeah,
the Blade Runner. What if Nebula was in Blade Runner?
And also way more emotional than I thought it was going to be too. Like way more stakes and way more like, emotionally investing than I thought it would be. And I think What If a good amount of the episodes also had a lot of emotional investment, which I thought was really well done. So,
and I did enjoy the new character, Kahori. I hope we see that character in some form or fashion in live action. I think Echo set the stage for a bit of that.
Yep.
Which we will talk about. Which we will talk about. But that being said, we are done for this week. If you want to find us, you can follow us on Twitter at @ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Instagram
at the Project Infinite Pod.
You can follow us on Facebook as well. And that's it. That's the only place you can find us. Next week we're going to talk about Echo. Until then, from the Tom Cruise of the podcast, he spoiled it for himself, but the Tom Cruise of the podcast.
I love it.
He loves it. He loves the movies.
I love the movies.
He loved the cinema.
Where's my popcorn? Nothing better than popcorn and watching a movie. What was that?
What? You beat me to it. What was that?
I don't know, but it's fine.
I remember that took over Twitter for like a week.
Yeah. It was just Tom Cruise sitting in that couch, just eating popcorn, talking about his love for movies.
He's
like Kobe Bryant.
He's a different kind of cat.
He's like, some people love the game. I love the game. I love cinema. You guys don't understand.
He's a different kind of cat. That's all you can say, man. All right, guys. We will see you next week for Echo. Goodbye.
Echo. Peace.